My friend, welcome to the world's best kept secret podcast, a podcast that brings you exclusive interviews from experts all over the world with life-changing work that you didn't even know existed. I'm your host, Prima Jobs, a partner for those that are ready to take their life-changing work in front of those whose life or business depends on it. Please follow or subscribe for more. You know, I have been looking for guests and then I landed on Laurie. And the reason I wanted to bring Laurie on is because I am one of those hosts who started a show with you guys. Hello, everybody. Like when I start speaking, I think I'm speaking to the whole universe. And I recall the first time I spoke to Laurie, she was like, you know what, Prima, you're not speaking to the whole universe. There is a way to start a conversation that brings the listener closer. And I have been trying to put an effort since then, not to say, buddy. And I hope that I'm doing a better job and I'm improving every day. And so I'm really excited about today because today is going to serve you in many ways. One, if you're the kind of person that when you begin your podcast or whoever you're speaking to a crowd, like you're speaking one to many, and you're always like, hey guys, hi everybody, hi people. You're yet to be shocked because that really excludes the listener and gets them to know that, you know what, they're not important, you're not speaking to them, you don't care. Who knew? There is a way to bring people on to feel like you're having a coffee chat with the person that you're speaking to. You know those people that you listen to their podcast and you feel like you're friends, you're in the kitchen, you're having a tea. That's the kind of stuff that we have today. The other bit of what we'll be talking about is a new way to look at legacies. I thought I helped people build legacy brands until I met Laurie, because she has such a nuance on looking at brand building, that's like legacy building, that I was like, whoa, this is different. Like, this is totally out of whatever I think I know. So without wasting a lot of time with my excitement, let me tell you a little bit about Laurie Hardie. She's a seasoned radio presenter for over 35 plus years. She's been in the trenches with radio production. Think about being in the trenches, and she is the definition of that. She's personally aired 3,000 podcast episodes and works with women who are wanting to create a hit podcast, a podcast that excites you and makes money. In Laurie's words, there is an easy way to talk to people that makes them feel like you see them, you appreciate them, and there is a way to address an audience that makes them feel like they are not welcome to the conversation. The second part of what she does that I really like is her heart is for women over 50 who want to get their wisdom and turn it into a legacy for the next generation. She has a fail-proof way that she helps women get their wisdom and turn it into their very first book, even if they didn't think they would write, even if they didn't think that was possible. But she helps them get their wisdom and turn it into a book. If that's not your thing, she helps you create a hit podcast that can be something you do every day for your legacy, for sharing your stories, for sharing your knowledge, or for generating income, if that's what you want. If that's not your path, after 50, if you're like, no, I don't want to do a podcast and I don't want to write a book, she's like, all right, let's turn your wisdom into a course, into an asset that people can go through years and years after you're gone. You can create the income, or you can just leave the income for the future generation if you don't need the income. And I love the part of her that helps people build a legacy, which is more like, so when you're gone, do you want people to assume what you stood for, or do you want to document it? Her famous quote, or my favorite quote of hers, is, it doesn't have to be published, but it has to be written or recorded. So if you like the idea of building a legacy, but you don't want to publish anything, no problem. You still have to write it or record it, but you don't have to publish it. And when I heard that, I was like, whoa, like that's a legacy. You may not want to publish anything, but when you're gone, you still want your siblings, you still want your great grandkids, you still want people to know what you stood for, the stories that you wanted to share with them. And today we're going to dive in. God help me. I don't know which direction I'm taking her, but I am just so excited to dive into all of it from head to toe. Laurie Hardie, welcome to the show. I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you, Prima. I have been so excited to hang out with you today.
Oh my God. Where should we begin? Why don't you tell us about your 35 years in the weeds with radio? When you start there?
Oh my, when I was a little girl, I had a transistor radio and I loved the radio, but there were not men DJs when I was, I'm not men, there were not women DJs when I was little. And so it didn't occur to me. And I think that's the thing I love about coaching is often we look at things in a way that we say, well, I don't see it, so I can't do it, but we can create. And then I heard a woman DJ, Charlie Parker was her name. And she was a local DJ here where I live. And she actually just passed away. And she inspired me because I thought, wait a minute, women can be on the radio? And so that started my journey. And what happened for me, and I love how you introduced me, it was so gracious and kind. But when I look at you and how much you love the people that you're talking to, and so of course it's like the mama chicken, we want to go, hey, everybody, we want to gather you all in. But what happens, we learn this in radio, it's radio 101. When we talk to one person, we talk to everybody. And really, it's a marketing thing. When you talk to everyone, you talk to no one. That's one of the first things we learn when we have to niche down. And so often it doesn't translate back to the microphone. So we build our avatar for business, we find out who we're talking to, and we write it, and we social media to that one person that we're talking to, but we open our mic and we want to go, hey, everybody. And what happened for me when COVID hit and I was alone a lot, and I was on all these Zooms, and I listen to podcasts because that's what I do. And I was feeling bad. I was leaving these Zoom calls. I was pushing next on the podcast, and I was really feeling bad, and I couldn't figure it out. I kept thinking, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? Because it's like, hi, I'm here. I'm raising my hand here, and I didn't feel seen or heard. Now, when we think about a podcast or a Zoom call with hundreds of people, the person leading it isn't going to go, hey, Prima, I'm so glad you're here when there's 1,000 people. But they can make me feel that way by saying, hey, did you know, instead of, hey, you guys, and just talking to one person when you're talking to all of them. And the problem that I have found, my biggest challenge, is that most people that are doing Zooms and podcasting, they don't understand this because they have this wonderful, pure heart and they want to include everyone. And they think that is what it is. They think that's the inclusion. And then there's this thing called ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And many of us, which is me, who have suffered from childhood trauma, we don't feel seen and heard. So even if we're doing our work, going to counseling, we get on these meetings, and when the leader is thinking they're including us, they're really excluding us, and we just want to go away. And when I made that connection, the radio and the social services connection, I was like, man, that's it. And so what I did was I reached out to a whole bunch of podcasters that I love. And it's interesting because I did not get any response. So maybe they, read it and did it, or maybe they just said, oh, she's crazy. But I realized that they don't understand that they're actually hurting people. They're actually isolating people. And if they could know this, they have such big hearts, they would not want to be hurting people. And so I set out on this mission to help people understand that. And I actually have an award, and I do one a week on my podcast. It's called Just You. And if I can listen to a podcast that doesn't say everybody and you guys, I give them an award. And do you know, it's been really hard for me to find them.
It's very funny because I remember there was this one coach. I don't know how he did it. He had 900 people in his Zoom room. His coaching program was that big. And every time I entered the Zoom room, it was like, hey, Prima, welcome. I'm like, oh, there's 900 people here. I don't know how, but every time I went to that Zoom, I felt like this. I see you. Whether he said my name or not, I always felt like he did that. I see you. And he didn't even need to say my name for me to feel like that. But I've also been in programs where I felt like a number. You know, you log in and you log out, and you're like, yeah, like I really feel like a number here. I feel like nobody sees my problems, nobody sees my questions, and I don't matter here. So it can be a very big thing. There was a beautiful woman who came on the show the other day, and we were doing the pre-work, and I said, so who are we speaking to? Who are these beautiful human beings? She has a big heart, bless her. And she was like, no, I don't want to niche down. Everyone needs my message. I don't want to niche down. I refuse to niche down. And bless her, but she's not getting traction because she wants to include everybody in her brand. And I'm like, but you don't have to exclude them, but you probably have to speak to someone. And she was just frustrated because she didn't want to do that. And so if I am wanting to include everybody in my work, and I think that niching down is a bad thing, what would you say to me? How can I look at it in a way that is still empowering? Because I don't think they're excluding anyone. I think they're actually including everyone by speaking to one person. What can you say to that person who feels like, oh my God, everyone needs my message? Don't be telling me to speak to one person or two, you know? What's your
Yeah.
message there?
That's so good, Prima, because I struggled with that.
Mm,
I really struggled with niching down. But working in radio, the thing is every station has their demographic.
mm,
So if we take a song that's for everybody, like there's a song that everybody loves, every generation, and we know that there's music like that.
mm,
We we have to have a station that would play everything for everybody. And no one in advertising is going to pay a commercial on a station that does a little bit country, a little bit young, a little bit old. And
mm,
so what we do is every station, every radio station has who they're talking to. If it's a Christian station, they're targeting a Christian audience. If they're a
mm,
talk station, they might, be targeting more of the people that are going to be listening to talk radio. And so the station I'm on in Seattle
mm.
is we call ourselves the Christmas station, but our target audience is for 35 to 45, which seems so narrow. Now, do we have people in their 60s listening? Absolutely. Do we have
Mm,
children listening?
mm,
Absolutely. But we think, who is this woman and what music does she love and does she want to listen to? And because of that, when she tunes in, when she hears a commercial, when she hears us talk, she feels like we're talking to her
mm,
because everything is specific to her. When I first started to uh, recognize the importance of niching down, I read this story about this couple was driving cross country and they kept seeing hitchhikers and they'd be
mm,
like, hey, need a ride? Hey, help me out. Can I get a ride? And then they saw a sign, a young man, got
mm,
to get home to mama for Thanksgiving.
mm.
And you
So
bet they
good.
pulled over and gave him a
So
ride.
good.
And it really boils down to being seen and heard. And so when we think our message is for everybody, do
Mm,
we want to be everybody?
mm.
Like if nail fungus, is that for everybody? You know, if you have a product that takes care of nail fungus in your fingernails or toenails, it's for a specific audience. And how is that person who needs that product going to
Mm.
find you if you don't target them? And so
Mm.
we're really doing our people, the people that need us, a disservice when
Mm.
we, you know, just say, oh, it's for everybody. I have a dear friend, I love her, she's an esthetician, and every time we go to a network meeting, she says her little, you know, 30-second spiels, anyone with a face. And so finally I told her, I said, you know, I have pretty good skin, I've never had any issues, and I've never thought about going to an esthetician. She's like, but I go, tell me why do I, you know, I have a face, but I have no desire to go to esthetician. And all of a sudden she was like, well, if you have those, you know, age spots, or if you, and she started to tell me, and she started to get specific. And I was like, oh, now I might be in your audience.
Mm.
But when you just say anyone with a face, that, give me a reason. Give me a
Mm.
reason.
This is so good. I remember when I was stuck in this area of trying to speak to everyone, there was a gentleman called Laurie Hardie, and he told it so well. He said, you don't have to exclude nobody, but you have to be clear who is your primary person, who's your secondary person, who's your tertiary person. And so he said, your primary person is the person that your work will change their world today. That if the only person who came to you is this person, you would rock their world. The person who depends on your services to thrive, survive, to. So he was like, there is a primary audience. And those are your people, the most lucky to have you. When you start speaking to those, there's going to be a secondary audience, people who want that. They aspire to be that. And there is going to be a tertiary person who says, I am not a woman, but I will follow you, even if you're speaking to women, because I like your story. So he said, you're not excluding everybody or anybody. But what you're doing is you're allowing your message to speak to somebody. And when you speak to the person at your heart, there is going to be a second person who just wants, aspires to be that. And I thought to myself, isn't that so right? Before I got married, I went to marriage seminars. I bought marriage books and I followed all these gurus that were speaking to couples. And I was like, yeah, I'm not married, but one day I will be. And when I'm married, I don't want to miss out. So it's not like they cut me out. They were not speaking to me, but I aspired for that. And so I followed. And my husband is one person who will say, see someone like, you know, there are these experts who say, if you're a woman, if you're not a woman, don't come to this program. My thing is only for women. And my husband is very naughty because he will say, I entered this women's program and the lady was saying, hi, lovely lady. And so right now I feel like a lady. And I was like, I am not a lady, but I think I like to learn from her. So he's very happy to sit in there. And every course begins with, hi, lovely lady. Hi. And I'm like, that's fine. She's crazy. He loves to watch these women programs because they do crazy things. And he's just curious with women. And so I think the point I wanted to leave here before we even leave, because I want to talk about the legacy work, is if you can begin to think about primary, secondary, and tertiary, you might find that very freeing for you because people will come to you even though they are not your primary person. They will come to you if they aspire for that thing. They will come to you nevertheless, even if you said men don't come, there's going to be men poking their head into your work because they just love who you are. And so for me, this gave me the freedom to go, oh my God. So I can speak to one person and they will come. It's like a frequency,
Yes.
like a radio frequency, 90.0. But sometimes you go to 90.012 and you get the station. Sometimes you go to 89.7 and you get the station. And just because you're 90.0 doesn't mean that you're not going to have people receiving the signal from slightly outside. And that is how I like to explain that point. And I thought it very empowering when I began to think about it like that.
Yeah. And you know, what we say is who we're helping is us 3 years ago. And so when we think about that, so there are a lot of these big gurus that do these programs with millions of people, and we're not going to be able to access them. If we reach out, if we go, we'll get one of their coaches. And they are so far ahead of where maybe I am or want to be.
Mm.
But I really want somebody that has been there, done that, that I can actually access.
Mm.
And so often we'll say, well, somebody's already doing that. But the truth is, nobody's going to do it like you because nobody's walked through it the way you have.
Mm.
And so when, like my coaching program, I've always got men in it, even though it's for women over 50. So, but that was hard for me. Man, if I just say it's for women. But
Mm.
I've realized it actually, I think I love what you said about your husband. It makes people a little more curious. So like, wait a minute, I want in.
It is so funny. And you know what is funny is that there is people who are not going to buy from the guru with 900 clients, because I personally am at a level where I either get one-on-one with you or I don't. I don't join. And so if
Mm,
you have 900 clients, I'm not going to join. Like, I'm at a level where I need one-on-one, I need clarity, and I just need my questions answered by the
mhm.
creator. And
Yes.
so there is real space, real advantages in being very personal and being very small and being niche down, because people will pay you more for that type of access. And so for me, I don't look at these big people and go, oh my God, I want to do that. Oh, there is someone who still wants a personalized service. There is somebody who still appreciates me being in there. And the more of those I can do, the more I can even get paid. Like, I don't try to talk myself into, oh, this is not scalable. Well, what is scaling? What is scaling? I could make 50 grand from one client and you could think you're having 10, but really what is scaling? I'm at a point where I look at scaling vertically, like how many people can I work with? How much? What is the change I can bring in their life? That's my scaling. No, I need 100 more people. No, maybe I just need 5 who can pay 100 grand. And that's my scaling.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
everything can be challenged. Everything can be
Yeah.
challenged. I want to pivot into the legacy work, but what do you feel needs to be added to this piece of the more personal, the better? The more one person you're speaking to, the more people you include. The more specific, the more terrific. What do you have to add? I think for me, the last say on this is everyone is consuming your content as one person. So if I'm on a podcast, it's me and you. It's me and my ears and you. If I am reading your content, it's just me on my phone. And if I don't feel like you're speaking to me, I'm disconnected. I feel like people consume content as one human being on their device. And that is usually the mindset I'm in when I create content now. There is one person who is reading this thing on their phone as one person, in their ears as one person in the middle of whatever country. So my effort is more like, can I help them have that experience on their device as one person? What would you want to say about that before we cross to the legacy work, which I love that work? But what would be your last words on, let's get specific, let's get personal, let's include whoever we are speaking to and make them feel seen, feel heard, feel cared for? What would be your last words on that?
That is such a great question. And I feel like with social media, it's such a beautiful thing in so many ways because I'm able to keep track of people that I didn't even know, never had really checked on before. But also it's very impersonal.
Mm.
And so I think it's really easy. What I recognized during COVID is funny because most of the people I know were stuck in a house with a million people. They're like, oh my gosh, I wish I was you because I live alone. But what happens is I feel like we're sort of losing that connection. I mean, it seems like we don't even talk really on the phone anymore. Everything is texting. So I feel like when I made this connection, when I'm on the radio, I
Mm.
want you to answer me. So I'll say, hey, did you know Bruce Springsteen has a Broadway play now?
Mm.
And I'm hoping that you're going to go, no, you're kidding me.
Mm.
And but I could say, hey, you guys, because I want to tell all millions of you. But I just talked to one because if I don't know if you've heard these stories. I love radio so much. So I always hear these stories, but there's so many stories of people that were going to end it, commit suicide. And
Mm.
they had their radio on in the background
Mm.
and they felt like that person was talking to them.
Wow.
and they made a decision to go one more day. And
Wow.
that is always stuck with me. And that's always why it's my biggest value. It's the first thing I teach in podcasting. And I know it's hard in our world when we have so much going on, but if before we open our mic, before we open our Zoom, we can think of one person and talk as though we're sitting having coffee. Because if I'm having coffee with you, Prima, I'm not going to go, hey, you guys, Prima, and we really, I feel like more than ever, we want to be seen and heard. And when I can lean into a podcast, even knowing I may never speak to that person. Another example is music. Musicians sing to one person. That's why we fall in love with their music. And often when we go to a concert, I will be leaving and I'll say to my friend, I think they were looking right at me. And they'll be like, no, they were looking at me. Because it's that feeling of belonging. And when we can speak in a way that makes people, oh, I'm so sorry, feel like they matter, then we're blessing them. When a person can feel like they matter in this day and age, we're giving them a huge, huge gift.
What are the other openers we can leave with the listener today? Like, hey, did you know that? That's a good one. What are the other ways we can open a podcast, for example, in a way that is very inclusive of the other person, other than, hey, did you know this thing about X?
Yeah, I have two thoughts on that. One is I like to start with a story. And so starting with a story kind of moves you into it, because then at the end of the story, you might have a question, and the question would be with a you rather than you guys. And then also, I find this helpful. So when I do my class, by the end of the class, I say, hey, podcasters, because now I am talking to them. They're in a class for podcasting. So some people will say, hey, survivors, because they're in a group for survivors, or like Al-Anon, or, it's like, what is the thing that you all unite on? What is like that one thing that you can all agree on? Hey, music lovers, like on the radio. So you could find, some people will say like hey, ladies, because they're in a group for women, or there's a podcast I love. It's a crime podcast, and she always says lovelies. She calls us lovelies because, like they say, hey, love. And so you can kind of find the thing that works for you, that will categorize but not isolate. Can you see? I see your brain turning right now. So what are you thinking?
Yes,
if you,
this is so good. I just had an aha moment. I'm in this group,
yeah.
and the guy always say, hey, brand builder. And I was in
Oh,
another group, and she would say, hey, lovely lady.
mm-hmm.
So they remove the S and just
Mm-hmm.
make it singular. Hey,
Yes.
music lover. And that
Mm-hmm.
is so good that I feel seen, heard, and taken care. I think even if you just removed the S and said,
Yes.
hey, podcaster,
Mm-hmm.
how good is that? I'm just
Yeah.
thinking, and it was like, boom, that is it.
Yeah.
What's my category? Hey, best kept secret.
Exactly. And it makes the person not only feel seen and heard, but now they feel exclusive. Oh, I'm the best kept secret. Oh, I'm a podcaster. And so it takes that to a next level of belonging.
Hey, legacy builder. Woo,
Mhm.
so good.
I mean, we think about artists. I mean, right now, who's the big thing? Taylor Swift. Guess what? You're a Swiftie if you're a
Mm,
fan. Hey,
mm,
Swiftie. So
yeah.
again, it's narrowing and then broadening. It's kind of like a pulse. And I think the most important thing is paying attention and knowing, like, I love it that you went, oh, that matters. Because often people are like, well, what I'm doing is working and I have a million viewers. So why would I change? And one of my favorite podcasts, I love his guests, but now he starts with two commercials, and the beginning of each commercial is, hey guys. And I unfollowed finally. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to sit through feeling like, and he is a person who cares about people
Mm.
and would be heartbroken if he thought he was making people feel excluded.
Mm. I mean,
But
there's always a chance to go deeper. Why not? Why
right.
not? You have a million viewers and subscribers, but what if you could have a million true fans? How about
Yeah.
that?
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
Mm-hmm.
I am so happy we talked about this because I feel so clear. I feel like the people that have always touched my heart gave me an identity and described me as one person. There's a woman who used to say, "Hey, Trailblazer," and I'd be like, it's really cool. You know, I don't know. I think if this is the only thing people picked from this, it would be amazing. And you say I'm saying people, so I'm still really like trying to do
It's
this. I
you.
am so
Yeah.
happy we went through this. I want to pivot a little bit and take you to legacy, living a legacy. Women over 50. Why women over 50, Rory? And why a legacy?
That's such a good question. And the reason is when we get into our 50s,
Mm.
we might not care as much about the other things. We're not working on building a family. We're not trying to figure out our career. Often we're at a point where we're winding down. And what I have noticed is a couple of things. One, here in America, we have Social Security. And now many women, when they get to that age, they may not be able to survive on Social Security. So they
Mm.
may need an extra side hustle or an extra thing. And then often I hear women say, well, I don't want to go back to school. I don't know anything. And I start having them list all the things they've done, all the volunteer work, all
Mm.
the raising kids and things they've created, newsletters. I mean, women are fabulous at filling in the gaps. Something will be going on at school and nobody knows how to do it. One woman will step up and make it happen, whether it's planning a carnival. And so when we begin to look, and I have a formula that helps us look at all the things that we've done, we can turn all that experience and all that legacy into helping others. Think about the moms now that are trying to do PTA and trying to do school, but they're working full time. There are tips and tricks that we know and that have helped us that we just take for granted. Oh, well, everybody knows that. But when we, and often this is what I hear the most, Prima. Oh, well, this is what I really wanted to do, but I knew I could never make money at it.
Oh.
Yeah, I raised my kids around horses and horsewomen say that all the time. Well, I'd really love to do horses, but I can't make a living at it. And my eyes pop open and I'm like, seriously, we're just, repeating things that we've heard. There is always a way to
Mm.
make money when we care about people and when we
Mm.
care about helping people. And even like that thing that we just did about categorizing, hey, warriors, hey, legacy builder,
Mm.
and I like how you say make it one, legacy builder, is like, what if one little tip that we have
Mm.
can help somebody maybe alleviate a few weeks of work? Is that worth it?
Totally.
And also women say they think about podcasting, they'll say, well, who will listen? And I always say, that's not your job.
Mm.
Your job, if you're in this class and you're being nudged to share your experience and tell your story, your job is to do that. And the people that need you will find you. That comes in the next stage of marketing. But we will let so many things get in our way.
Mm.
And speaking out about things like kids, women that have special needs kids, they think, well, my whole life was caring for this kid. What do I have to offer?
Mm.
Wow, that you did it, that you
Mm.
made it. How did you get through every day when you had a special needs kid? And so often we think what we walk through doesn't matter or isn't helpful.
Mm.
But with blogging, with podcasting, and also a lot of times people think, well, it's just one thing, but I always teach have three pillars. So whatever your thing is, so mine is podcasting, but I also talk about the way we talk, how we talk. And then I also talk about coaching tips about letting go, forgiving, all the things that sometimes get in our way. So we do one podcast, we have one umbrella, but as we collect our people, we start to give them a little more of us and things that we've walked through when they let us know, what they're walking through. So people will say, I hate my voice. Who will listen? And I'm not techie. And so here's my answers. Most people hate their voice. Get over it. I'm not techie. I call it reverse mentoring. There will be a person in your life, a teenager, a young adult, that will help you if you ask. And who will listen is our job is to tell, and people will find us. And along with who will listen is, does my story even matter? And our stories matter. And when we look at AA and NA, how that is so successful is people share their stories. And I work with women in recovery, women coming out of homelessness, and I'll know them for a while. They'll be clean and sober. They'll be getting their life back together. And then they'll tell me a story about when they were in jail because they've got a new girl that's come in that's just getting out of jail. And I look at them and I go, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were in jail. And I think, would I tell that vulnerable story? But yet that story is the very thing that's helping that next woman get her bearing and go, if she can do it, I can do it.
I love the work you do because after 50, you begin to ask yourself questions. I asked my mom the other day, what do you want us to know about you? What do you want your great grandkids to know about you years and years after? And she was like, I wrote a book of my life. And I was like, where is the book? And she's like, yeah, you will only get to read it when I'm gone. And I'm like, woo, I cannot wait. Like, my mom wrote a book about her life. And she's like, when I'm dead, you all read the book. And I'm like, why can't we read it when you're here? See questions like, no.
Yeah.
You read it when I'm gone.
That's so good. And here's the thing. We live in a generation, a day and age where we can type, write, record, and it will live on. So even if you don't want to publish, say you want, open your little photo, leave a video, tell a story about Prima when she was 5. Then tell a story about Prima's sister. Then tell a story about yourself. Okay, now you've got 3 videos. Maybe you did one a day. When you're gone, guess what? It's on your phone. Your family's going to find it, whether you ever publish it to the world. And I love your mom for doing that, because often, don't you find kids aren't curious about their parents until they get older, and then often it's too late. It's often too late. They don't.
I remember Rory, my mom, for whatever reason, she wrote a book for each of us. And when you were like 15, 20, she would say, here's your book, carry on. And I'm like, whoa, how many books have you written? She wrote a book about everybody's life. You were born at this point, at this hour. And we didn't get these books until one day she was like, she got a mental illness and she was like, give them the books. I think at that point she had decided, I want them to know their lives right now, right here. And so they gave us the books and we're all confused because she was now mentally ill and we're like, oh my God, we'll never see our mom again. We were in this set of, but that book calmed me down and just made me believe that, oh my God, she's going to stay around. Like, it had everything about me, how I was born, where I was born, why they named me, how they named me, all of the answers that I was having and didn't even know I had. And I was like, whoa. So I really like the women you serve, because after 50, we have to agree that we're at half life here. And we get to ask the question, so when I'm gone, what will people say about me? Not even people. I like how you look at it, because it can just be like your children and your great grandchildren. what will they say about you? Do you want them to actually know the stories you had and the messages you had? And do you want them to know some stuff about you, or do you want them to make assumptions? Do you want another person to tell the story? So the work you do makes me want to tell, because it is the choice to either tell your story or another person guesses around it. I just wonder what drove you to create legacies for the people after 50. Where did that come from?
Because that's when I started again to think about that. And what happened is, um, there's so many stories we pass down in our
Mm,
family. And when my son had a baby last year and named their baby the middle name after his wife's grandpa, who
mm,
is German. And I said, "Oh, just like you're named after your family." And he said, "What?" His name is Davis. And his dad's family was Davis, Mom, Pa Davis. They had a corner store where we lived. And he said, "What?" And I know I've told him this story before, but that's the thing with stories, is sometimes they don't catch on until we have a reason to want them.
mm,
And so I thought, if I tell these stories and leave them somewhere for my kids, then if they have questions, if something happened, there's no guarantee. I have a client who's in her 60s and she's writing a book, and her dad is in his 90s. And he said, "I'm going to write a book one day." I said, "Tell him to do it today." Tell him to do it today, because there's no guarantee. And as a single mom, I had a grandma that was a widow. She was a single mom, a great
mm,
grandma.
mm,
And I'd heard that she had journals, and I looked and looked for them. We never did find them. And I thought how my life could have been different had
mm,
I could have read what she wrote and what she went through. And so I wrote a book, did not see that coming, Hope for the Single Parent. And I thought that would be my legacy to my kids. But then I realized there's so much more as we keep living. There's so
mm,
much more to share. And so I just, I think that our generation of women don't, I think many of us don't love ourselves. We don't think we matter, and we don't think anyone would care. And if I care,
mm,
that's what matters. If I care about a story about my kids, or telling them stories about my parents or my grandparents, we when people get in their 40s and 50s, that's when they want to do ancestry. That's
mm,
when they want to do the DNA. They want to know about their past.
mm,
And then if nobody's left them anything, they'll have to make it up, like you said.
mm. Wow. Wow. I still can't get over the way you look at legacy. I still can't get over the fact that it doesn't even have to be published. It just has to be documented.
Yes.
Take us there. Like, take us there, because I feel like there would be a woman after they're 50, they're 60, and they're like, nah, who cares? I don't even want to listen to
Mhm.
myself. I know someone that if they did a video, they'd never watch it because they're just terrified of how bad they sound. And so if that was the fear I had of like, geez, record, like, did you say record?
Push record.
Walk me through that path where as a woman I am resisting and I'm like, really, like, I can't even listen to myself, like,
Mhm.
this doesn't matter. I probably don't have the love in my heart for myself to know that I am worthy of a legacy. Walk me through that mind battle around if I actually deserve to have a legacy in this world. Walk me through that.
That's so beautiful. I just was talking with a friend the other day, and she said she has a friend. They get together about once a year, and every time she wants to do selfies, and
Mm,
she doesn't want her picture taken. And my friend, because she's a caregiver, and she's exhausted and tired, and she feels like she looks old and haggard. And she said, "I told her, please do not take my picture." And the woman was really hurt. And I said to my friend, I said, "I understand you don't like the way you look, but we all love you. We love
mm,
you. We love your voice. We love what you look like. And
mm,
by you judging you, you have stolen from us." And when we, like, often when people will record for me, they won't listen back. They'll just send it because they can't stand to listen back. And I give them so many kudos because they pushed record.
mm,
We don't have to listen back, but the best gift we can give our family
Mm.
is to be able to look in the mirror and find something about ourselves that we can love. And because I am a childhood survivor, a childhood abuse, it took me a long time to feel like I was worthy. And I would look in the mirror and I put on my makeup, but I didn't see me. And so I started doing, they call it mirror work with
Mm.
Louise Hay. And so I would go, you know what? I think I really like my eyes. They're blue and I like them. So every day when I look in the mirror, I just put on my makeup and then I go, wait, I really like my eyes. And as I started to love that person,
Mm.
I started behaving differently. See, we don't know when we have self-loathing and self-hate and unforgiveness in our heart about ourselves, we come across a certain way to our family. And I work with survivors. And so when they have not told their story and they've not found a place of peace,
Mm.
they are they're reactive, they're triggered, and they don't even really recognize this until they start getting help, but their family sees it. So they may be snapping at their family,
Mm.
and it's because of what's in their heart. It's not necessarily because the family's being jerks. And
Mm.
so when we can begin to love ourselves, look at ourselves and find and value all that we've walked through, all that we've created, and
Mm.
find some forgiveness for ourselves, we are going to be different with others. And seriously, the people I love to be around are the people that love themselves and they're not worried about, oh, I don't look right, or they're just having a great time. And
Mm.
that is a gift to the world when we can do that work and look inside
Mm.
and find who we are, tell ourselves we're worthy, even though we don't feel it. I mean, some people have spiritual beliefs. For me, I'm a Christian. I believe the Bible, and the Bible says we were created in his image. He knows how many hairs are on our head and that he loves us. And so when we are telling ourselves we're not worthy, we're not loved,
Mm.
what does that say about our belief system? Because we can't, it's not in alignment to
Mm.
say, oh, God loves us, but I don't love me.
There's a story you told me the last time we had a chat, and it was about a woman who said, "Oh, I heard my voice. Oh my God, I can't record stuff." And then you sent it back with a little music, and she cried. Tell us that story. I feel it inspired me so much. Could you tell that
So,
story?
I say push record, just do it. And so in my class, I give them a really easy little phone app. It's free and it's broadcast quality. And I just say, open it up and start talking.
Mm.
And so they sometimes they will, a lot of times they don't get past that fear and they're so afraid. And so the reason I want them to do that is when they send it to me, like I just say, tell me a story. Like tell
Mm.
me a little story, ask a question. And because I have just a little tiny formula you can do when you're just starting podcasts that can help you get into the groove, so to speak.
Mm.
And so I say, if you do it, I'll edit it and I'll put music and then you can hear how you really sound. And so
Mm.
they'll send it to me. I take out all the ums and ahs. And a lot of people have repetitive things. They'll say, well, I'm going to tell you this. I take that out. Just tell me this. And
Mm.
so then I put a little music behind it. It's usually 5 minutes and I send it back. And if they listen, because sometimes it takes them days to listen, they're so afraid. But
Mm.
when they listen, they'll text me and say, I'm bawling right now. And
Mm.
I'm like, yeah, because I knew that. I knew you have a powerful voice. I know you have a message,
Mm.
but you didn't know you could just push record and make something beautiful.
Wow. I'm just wondering if there's a woman out there that is fighting, battling with, yeah, do I even want this legacy thing? Does anyone care about my legacy? Will it be worth it? I can guarantee you it will be. And Rory has that formula for when you're 60 and you don't want to have that regret on your deathbed of, I wish I did that. I wish I recorded that thing. When my dad passed, I wish I had done a podcast with him because he had so much to share and he had so many stories and he was the funniest man alive and he had such a big vision that we used to think it's a joke. And there were all these things he always wanted to summon us and talk and come and visit me and he would talk to you for hours. And I just wish that we had recorded that and that would be a podcast because that would be really interesting to hear him speak. And all I can say is it's never too late to either
Yeah.
create a legacy or help a loved one create a legacy. Um, what did we miss? What do you feel like the 35 plus years of being in the trenches have taught you that you don't want any woman listening to miss? What did we miss?
I I did an interview with a death doula. Have you heard of a death doula?
No.
So they help people at the end of life.
Mm,
And she had lost a son to suicide.
mm,
And then about 2 years later, her husband passed away of a heart attack. And she said, I really believe it was a broken heart over their son. It was so devastating.
uh,
And then she was a dentist and she got some damage, nerve damage in her drill fingers, the fingers that she drills. So she had to give up being a dentist. And she lost so much. And a neighbor said to her, you need to get over your son's death because you have two children that are alive. And
mm,
she was really angry with him, but what she recognized was she was so caught up in her grief and in
mm,
everything that she lost that her kids were missing her. And she has turned her life around and she's written a book about end of life and how to prepare, and she is living her best life. She's thoroughly enjoying her grandkids. And she has a niece that just was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And she said, you know what? I went over, we had a slumber party. We wrote letters, legacy letters to all of her kids for every event, for a wedding, for whatever. And I did suggest, you can record these too. You don't just have to write them. You could do these recordings. And here's this woman who's dying. Her and her aunt are having a party,
wow.
writing end of life letters
Wow.
because she's not going to see her kids graduate. And the beauty of it was she's giving this woman this huge gift of let us see who you are before you go.
Mm,
And if I could convince anyone some way, somehow, there's a generation of women that hide. We think we
mm,
have to hide and not be seen and heard. If I
mm,
could challenge you, now is your time. Be seen, be heard, tell your stories. And it doesn't matter if
mm,
nobody wants to listen. Somebody someday will find them and it will matter.
mm.
If I could have found my grandma's journals, I think it could have helped me so much. So leave a legacy for people to find. Be brave. Get over the hump. Once you start doing it, you could say this about podcasting. When you first start, it's terrifying. Now you just open the mic and do it. It's not a big deal, right?
Mm. It is. This is so
Yeah.
good. This is so good. I don't know what to add to such wisdom, Rory. I don't know what to add, but I can't remember who it was. But they said if you can find a greater mission to serve using your abilities, just help people start talking and leave the rest to the world. A few days ago, a woman came to me and said, you know what, Prima, you have been writing about the world's best kept secret. I watched you on day one. You had no subscriber. I watched you a few days ago. You have 300 subscribers. You're doing amazing work. And I've been sat on my butt for the longest time thinking, who cares? Who wants to know? Who wants to see me starting from zero? And you've just given me permission to start. You never know who this message, whatever you're doing, will impact. I didn't know that woman existed. I had no idea she was struggling with starting something. She was feeling cold, but she was like, geez, I have no subscriber. I have no audience. And I started doing this work. I was like, I'm creating something. It's called the World's Best Kept Secret podcast. I'm going to interview amazing people about their work. I am going to ask them to talk about their offers. I'm going to ask them to get people to buy their offers if they want them. I have a sales skill. I have marketing skills. I love talking to people. And I'm going to use these skills to help the world. And to hear that it's helping people get out of their own way and start. And I started saying we have one subscriber, we have five subs. I didn't think much of it. I just thought I want to document this from day one because I want tomorrow when we have 1 million plus subscribers for people to know that we started with one. And I just started saying this week we got two more subscribers. And I didn't care. Like I was like, it is two subscribers. We now have seven. And if you think you're too late or something, you're not. Because I have this channel, I have big dreams, but it has 2 subscribers, and that is okay. And they kept saying that. And now to hear that woman saying that, I was like, geez, that who knew? Like, who knew that you having 1 subscriber was an inspiration to another person? And so what I really pick off is it is not your duty to know the how it will be consumed and who will find it helpful. It is just your duty to answer that calling that says you need to leave something behind. I sincerely believe that whatever you're being called to create, somebody's praying for it. There is somebody that is praying, asking God every day to answer a prayer, and that prayer lies in your life lesson. It lies in your scars. It lies in your tears. It lies in your frustrations. But you have to somehow remove it from your head and air it and write it and put it somewhere. Otherwise, I strongly believe that when you don't do that, you're denying this person the chance to receive an answer from whoever they're praying. And once it's out there, it's recorded, it's written, the publish button is just one snap, and so I am so in line with the work that Rory does. And whether you know it or not, you deserve a legacy. People need to know about you. People need to learn from your lessons. Doesn't matter what it is you went through. People need to learn from that. And I love that she has options. You can put in a book that will still be helpful. You can create a podcast if you love talking. That'll be very helpful. Somehow every day you will get it out of your head into the world. You can create a course. There is endless ways to build your legacy. You probably need somebody like Rory to hold your hand and show you the options. You're timid, you're shy, you're everything. Don't worry about it, but get someone to help you through that process of knowing that, you know what, there is a process, there's a way for me. And so I really appreciate you listening today and hanging with us. And I sincerely hope that we've served. We have to go, but I would love for Rory to tell us exactly how you can access her services, how to move forward if you feel the fire right now to get onto that legacy and start building it, or to just become a better podcaster, or to just start creating those courses or creating a book, whatever that legacy looks like to you. Rory, what should we do to move forward, to take this fire to the next level?
You can go to my webpage, www. You've always got to put the W's in. Mm-hmm. Working in radio, I try not to say the W's, but Coach Laurie, LAURIE.com. And you can do it, buy my course now as a do-it-yourself. But I do offer in-person classes, which is so fun because when we collaborate together, it is so amazing. And then when you're done, you have all these people that want to follow you. So that's the best way to reach me. But also just to say, you may want to write a book and you say, I hate writing. Guess what? If you record, Google will transcribe. You can write a book without ever writing. So there are just so many ways you can leave a legacy. And I would just say, be brave, open your mic, just do it. Just do it now.
Oh my God, Rory, thank you so much for blessing the community today. And to you, my amazing best kept secret. What could I do without you? Thank you so much for hanging around with us. You could have been doing a million things with your life, getting lost on TikTok, scrolling through cartoons, watching cute cats, having a meal with your family. You could have been doing a million things, but you chose to hang out with us. You chose to get this message. You're not here by mistake. You're here because you were meant to receive this message. So my ask is one, someone, a woman, 50 and above, and they are battling with this. If they were gone tomorrow, bless them, we would all struggle to know what they stood for, who they were, what they cared about. They would die with the stories inside of them. I would love for you to share this episode with them. That is how you can contribute to today. Share this episode with them and allow them to experience Rory, because I feel like she shared enough to give that person a chance to leap in and say, all right, let's do this. We're building a community. The world's best kept secret community is going to be the biggest and the grandest. And here is how you can be a part of it. 1, rate, review, subscribe, follow. I don't even know what buttons you're seeing. become a part of this, get involved, become a contributor, get to see this work built from day one. And I want on day 1001 to go, oh my God, we've come from so far. We're building this community one person at a time. Every subscriber, every rate, every review, every follow matters. And I really appreciate your participation in building this community. I cannot tell you how that is going to help. Because the better the community, the bigger the community, the more things I can do, the bigger the game I can play, the better the speakers I can bring on. The benefits are endless. And all you have to do is just be involved, just participate, just share, just review, just rate, and see this whole beautiful world create itself. Even I don't know where it will end. And so it is just too big for me, for you, but I hope that at one point, we will look at it and go, wow, we've come so far. Thank you so much for your time today. I really honor you, celebrate you, and look forward to seeing you next time. That is it, my friend. To listen to more exclusive interviews like this one, simply go to the World's Best Kept Secret podcast.com and select interviews based on preferred topic.